On my 30th birthday, my father handed me a suitcase and said, "You're too old to freeload. No cake, no card, no goodbye." Just that I paid their bills, I covered their debts. I made sure the lights stayed on, the fridge stayed full, the roof stayed over all our heads. But that night, the only thing they gave me was the door. The worst part, it wasn't the eviction, it was realizing I had been used for years and never saw it coming. And when I finally stood up for myself, they didn't just let me walk away. They tried to erase me, but here's what they didn't expect. I had kept receipts, every payment, every sacrifice. And before sunrise, I froze every card they depended on and watched their world unravel. Have you ever been the one holding your family together, only to be tossed aside when they no longer needed you? Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And if you've ever chosen peace over obligation, you're not alone. This story is for you. My name is Riley Carson. I'm 30 years old. I work as a senior bookkeeper at a small firm in Ridgeway, Ohio. It's not glamorous, but I'm good at what I do. Numbers make sense, people don't. I've lived with my parents, Cullen and Vera, my whole life. At first, it was supposed to be temporary. After college, I moved back home to save money just until I found my footing. Then my mom got sick. Then my dad lost his job. Then the roof started leaking, the bills started piling up. And before I knew it, a few months had turned into 7 years. I picked up the slack, quietly, willingly. Because that's what family does. I told myself I was being a good daughter, that my sacrifices mattered, that one day they'd look at me and say, "Thank you, Riley. We couldn't have made it without you," but they never did. Instead, the more I gave, the more they expected. The bills always ended up in my name. The groceries came from my paycheck, the Netflix account, the insurance policies, the gas bill mine. Even the car insurance for both their vehicles mine. I told myself it was temporary. I was wrong. Cullen was a hard man. He grew up in a time where pride mattered more than kindness. He didn't believe in saying thank you. He believed in results. And my mother, Vera, never argued. She just sat quietly beside him, hands folded, voice, soft eyes lowered. She would pat my arm sometimes and say, "You're such a good girl," then hand me a bill. I can't say exactly when the resentment started. Maybe the day I skipped a vacation to pay for a new water heater. Maybe the winter I worked overtime to cover the mortgage after Cullen blew our savings on poker nights. Or maybe it was a slow erosion, a drip of disappointment that eventually became a flood. Still I stayed, I thought. If I kept the house running, if I worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, held everything together, then maybe they'd see me, but I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a utility. And on the day I turned 30, the one day I let myself hope just a little, I came home with a cheap vanilla cake from the supermarket. $6. The icing misspelled my name and I didn't even correct it. Because I was tired. And somewhere deep inside, I knew it didn't matter. When I stepped through the front door, the house was silent. Not just quiet, but sterile. There was dinner on the table, meatloaf boxed, mashed potatoes, canned green beans, nothing special. But that wasn't new. I didn't expect a party, not even a card. But the way Cullen stared at me that night, like I was a bill he forgot to cancel. That's when I knew that night wasn't just cold, it was calculated. He didn't raise his voice, didn't rant. He just said, "It's time you left." And my mother. She didn't even look at me. She didn't say a word. Just kept pushing food around her plate like it wasn't my birthday. Like I hadn't kept that roof over our heads. Like I hadn't become invisible. I wasn't shocked. Not really, the shock had come years ago. I just hadn't been ready to name it. But that night, sitting at the table across from the people I once called home, something in me snapped, quietly, finally. And when I climbed the stairs to my bedroom past the cake, I didn't eat. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I started making a list, not of what I owed them, but of everything they owed me. I sat on the edge of my bed suitcase, gaping open like it had been waiting for this night. I'd packed half of it 2 weeks ago, just in case. Just in case the silence turned sharp. Just in case the tension at dinner became something I couldn't swallow anymore, but I hadn't finished. Some part of me still hoped I was being dramatic. That things would settle, that they'd come around. They didn't. I stared at the cake sitting lopsided on my nightstand. Cheap frosting smudged against the plastic window. The red lettering looked more like dried blood than icing now. "Happy birthday, Riley," one candle missing. One seat empty, one family gone. I stood and walked to the mirror. Same loose bun, same green eyes. But something behind them was harder, sharper, like a cord had snapped, and left a cleaner silence in its place. Then I heard it, Cullen's voice downstairs, laughing. Not at a joke. At me. You see her face, he said. She looked like she'd been slapped. And Vera's reply soft, almost pitiful. She'll land on her feet, she always does. They didn't know I was still in the house. Or maybe they didn't care. I moved slowly, deliberately. I unplugged my phone from the wall and slipped on my jacket. I stepped carefully, avoiding the squeaky stair on the left. Years of quiet survival had trained me well. At the bottom of the stairs, I paused. The TV cast that eerie blue light across the room, Cullen in his recliner, drink in hand. Vera curled at the far end of the couch like a ghost. They looked so normal, like this was just another Wednesday. Like they hadn't just discarded me like a cracked dish. I stood there just watching. And for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing. Cullen spotted me first. He raised his beer with a lazy grin. Don't forget to turn off the lights when you leave, he slurred. You're not paying for them anymore. He thought that was the last word. A mic drop, a final jab at the freeloader he never wanted. But he didn't know I still had the power. Not metaphorically, literally. Every single utility account was in my name. I walked back upstairs, my heart pounding, not with rage, but with clarity. That night I didn't pack the rest of my clothes. I didn't fold old t-shirts or cry into the sleeve of a hoodie I couldn't afford in college. I opened my laptop, logged in electricity, water, gas, internet. Each account listed under Riley Carson. I hovered over the cancel button, just long enough to remember how I'd sat in the cold office 2 years ago begging the electric company to extend us another week. How I skipped lunch for 3 months straight to save enough for a new furnace. How I paid for car repairs, dentist visits, even dog food for a pet that wasn't mine. And not once did they ever say thank you. Click, cancel. Confirm I wasn't being petty. I wasn't punishing them. I was simply done. Done funding their comfort at the expense of my sanity. Done carrying their lives, while they made mine feel like a burden. Then I opened the bank app, the emergency savings account. The one Vera had access to. The one I set up after Dad forgot to pay the mortgage. I froze it. No withdrawals, no transfers. Just a quiet, irreversible severing. At 1:42 a.m., I closed the laptop. And for the first time in years, I slept. Not deeply, not peacefully, but without checking if the thermostat was working, or the fridge was humming, or the lights were off to save money. Because I knew they were about to learn exactly what I'd been holding together, and just how fast it all falls apart when the glue decides to walk away. The next morning, I didn't wake to an alarm. I woke to chaos. 12 missed calls, 4 voicemails, 2 angry text messages from Cullen, 1 shaky, guilt-laced message from Vera Riley, honey. There must be some mistake. Please call us, we're family. I sat up slowly, sunlight cutting through the curtains of Nora's spare room. My suitcase lay neatly in the corner. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my cousin Tyler. Internet's down, no lights. Dad's losing it. Mom's crying. You okay? I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I made coffee. Black, no sugar. I sat at Nora's kitchen table, staring at the same screen I'd used to dismantle a system built on guilt. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful, it was waiting. I knew what was coming when you stop feeding dysfunction. It doesn't starve quietly, it screams by noon. My parents' desperation had spilled online. Cullen's post appeared in the Ridgeway community group. Our daughter abandoned us in our old age. She left us with nothing, no power, no heat, no warning. After everything we sacrificed, pray for us. The comments came fast. So sorry, Cullen. These kids today. She sounds heartless. And then, wait, isn't she the one who paid their bills? I remember seeing her shovel their driveway alone during that snowstorm. Didn't she skip college graduation to care for her mom? The tide was turning. Slowly, reluctantly, but it was moving. Still, Cullen kept pushing by evening. I received an email from a law office. Subject notice of civil filing attached a scanned document. They were suing me. Theft, financial abandonment, emotional elder abuse. My fingers curled into fists. I hadn't screamed when they kicked me out. I hadn't fought when they smeared me online. But this was war. I closed the email and opened a folder I'd been building for years, without knowing why. Screenshots, bank transfers, utility statements, receipts. All in my name, all tied to their survival. I wasn't the villain. I was the unpaid accountant, the silent safety net. And now I was done being silent. I called the Legal Aid Center in Columbus, spoke calmly, explained everything, sent them everything. The paralegal's voice on the other end didn't waver. You've been exploited, Riley. You have a right to respond, and we can help. That night, I drafted my own counterclaim, filed formal complaints of financial coercion and dependency abuse. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. Documented, defended, undeniable. The next day, Vera left a voicemail. Trembling, begging. You're tearing this family apart. We only wanted what was best for you, but I'd heard that phrase before. What's best for you had always meant what's easiest for us. Then Cullen's final message arrived. You think you won. Family always gets the last word. He was wrong. Family doesn't get the last word. Truth does. And I still had more of it than they ever imagined. By the end of the week, I had a system. Mornings were for coffee and calls with legal aid. Afternoons were for scanning and organizing evidence. Evenings were for silence so deep it echoed like peace. Nora, ever steady, didn't ask questions unless I offered answers. She just brewed strong coffee, handed me highlighters, and occasionally reminded me to eat. I started with the utilities, electric, gas, water, internet. Every account had my name, my payment history stretched back years. Every disconnection notice, every late fee I covered, every auto payment from my card. I printed them, labeled them, filed them. Then came the mortgage support, the months I transferred funds to stop foreclosure. The bank emails from Vera's inbox confirming my deposits. I found the message thread where she had asked for my help just this once. It dated back 6 years. There had been over 40 just this once requests since then. Next came the repair bills, photos of the leaking roof I patched in the rain, screenshots of Home Depot receipts, a contractor estimate Cullen ignored, followed by a payment I made under my own name, and then the personal sacrifices. A canceled vacation, an emergency fund I drained to fix Vera's car, an anniversary gift I skipped for a dental procedure Cullen couldn't afford. Line by line, memory by memory, I laid out the truth. It wasn't emotional, it was clinical. Like prepping an audit, like balancing ledgers no one else wanted to admit existed. That weekend, Nora and I attended the fall festival downtown. I kept to the edges, hands in jacket pockets, hood half up, but I heard them. The whispers, didn't she pay for everything? I heard her dad hasn't worked in years. She got kicked out on her birthday, right? At one booth, I passed a former teacher, Mrs. Langford. She gave me a small, sad smile. You didn't deserve that, Riley. That one sentence meant more than any of my parents' words ever had. Later that night, back in Nora's apartment, I sat at the small desk we'd turned into my war room. I opened a blank social post, typed carefully. When they asked me to leave, they didn't just lose a daughter. They lost the person who paid their bills, fixed their home, and kept their lights on for a decade. Attached were documents, screenshots, proof I didn't rage, I didn't accuse. I posted facts, receipts. Then I hit publish and waited. At first it was quiet, a few likes, a handful of DMs from old classmates. I always wondered how you managed. You deserved better. Then momentum shifted. By midnight, the post had over 200 shares, comments from former neighbors, old church friends, even a distant cousin I barely remembered. One wrote, I remember her fixing the gutter alone when it collapsed. Her dad just watched from the porch. Another, Cullen always bragged about not paying a dime once Riley got her job. They weren't stories I had told. They were stories others had witnessed, and never said out loud until now. Cullen tried to fight back, posted a defensive rant full of half-truths and crocodile tears. But it backfired. The comment section lit up. Now you speak, but never once posted about her birthday. Funny how you forgot all the years she paid for your truck insurance. Vera, true to form, tried pity. Voicemails. Trembling voice. I didn't know Cullen was going to post that. Please take it down. People will misunderstand. No. They finally understood clearly. They weren't grieving the loss of a daughter. They were grieving the loss of control. 3 days later, I received official notice. Their lawsuit had been withdrawn, but I wasn't done. I walked into the town clerk's office, handed over my documents, and filed a counterclaim. Not to win money, but to name the exploitation for what it was formally. When people say family is everything, what they often mean is, you owe us. Forever. But I had learned something else. Family isn't who drains you, family is who shows up when you have nothing left to give and asks nothing in return. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. The morning after I filed my counterclaim, the first call came from Aunt Marcy. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was. She launched straight in, Riley, this has gone too far. Family doesn't sue family. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just hung up. A minute later, another call. Uncle Phil voicemail this time. You're embarrassing everyone. Just apologize and come home. This isn't how we handle things in this family. He was right, it wasn't, because this time I wasn't handling it the way I used to. Meanwhile, Cullen and Vera kept spiraling. Cullen made one last attempt to salvage their image, a public post, claiming I was mentally unstable, that the stress of caring for them had warped my perspective. He called me a liar, said I fabricated documents, said I was being coached by people who didn't understand family loyalty, but this town, they remembered more than he thought. A neighbor, Mr. Collins, commented, I've watched Riley carry groceries into that house every week for years, alone, rain or shine. Another woman posted a photo from 2 winters ago, me shoveling snow in front of the house while Cullen smoked on the porch, and then came the final blow. An old landlord of theirs, one I'd contacted to verify repair payments, posted the original email trail. My name, my card, my permission. There it was. Public, undeniable. Cullen deleted his account the next morning. Vera, meanwhile, sent me a letter. Handwritten 2 pages of looping script. She said she never wanted things to escalate, that she only ever wanted what was best, that she wasn't strong enough to stop Cullen, but that deep down she was always proud of me. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it into a drawer. Not as forgiveness, not as reconciliation, just as a reminder of who she chose to be. That same week, Nora and I went to the grocery store, and as I reached for a carton of eggs, a woman tapped my arm. She was maybe in her 50s. Tired eyes, soft voice. You don't know me, she said, but I just wanted to say, thank you for standing up. I blinked. She added, my daughter's going through something similar. She showed me your post, said it gave her the courage to say no. I nodded once. Didn't trust myself to speak. Outside the store, I finally exhaled. Not because the storm had passed, but because I had stopped trying to outrun it. Back at Nora's place, I sat by the window. The first frost had dusted the rooftops. The trees outside were nearly bare. The world was quiet, but not the heavy kind of quiet that lived in my parents' house. This was open, fresh like air I'd never breathed before. My phone buzzed again, a message from a classmate I hadn't seen in years. I always thought you were the strong one. Now I know for sure. Then Tyler, my cousin, messaged too. Dad's trying to act like nothing happened, but the lights went out again, literally. He's blaming the city now. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because it wasn't mine to carry anymore. Later that night, I stood in my new apartment, a 1-bedroom rental above a bakery. Smelled like cinnamon and yeast in the mornings. Sounded like home at night. The furniture was secondhand, the mattress still on the floor, but it was mine, every inch of it. And in the corner of my desk sat a small bent piece of plastic, the cake topper from my last birthday, the one that never got used. It didn't make me sad anymore. It made me certain that survival is never weakness. That choosing yourself isn't selfish, that the people who let you drown while you held them up don't deserve a single drop from your well. I took a picture of the cake topper, posted it with one line. This was the day they let go of me, and the day I chose to hold on to myself instead. The comments flooded in, not pity, not outrage, recognition. People who knew exactly what it meant to be the backbone and the burden, the helper and the unwanted, the caregiver and the castaway. I had told the truth, and this time the world had listened. A month passed. Then 2. The lawsuit faded into silence. No more calls, no more threats, No more guilt-laced voicemails, whispering you'll regret this. Cullen and Vera disappeared from my feed, from my inbox, from my life. And for the first time in years, I felt light. I started building something new. Not a mansion, not a dream life, just something that was mine. I painted the walls in soft blue, hung thrifted curtains, adopted a rescue cat named Clementine, who hated loud noises but loved curling up beside me when I read. I made routines. Breakfast at the corner cafe, evening walks past the bookstore, weekly phone calls with Nora even when we were just in different rooms. There were moments, quiet ones, where the grief returned. Not for them, but for the girl I used to be, the one who kept trying, kept pleasing, kept shrinking. I mourned her. Then I thanked her because she got me here. She endured long enough for me to choose different. The last item I unpacked was a small box marked sentimental. Maybe inside a broken mug from my college days. A postcard I never sent, and that cake topper bent cheap crooked. I placed it on my bookshelf. Not to remember the hurt, but to honor the survival. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone your destruction, just to keep their world from falling apart. Love doesn't demand your silence, respect doesn't require your suffering, and family doesn't evict you on your birthday. Then beg for help when the lights go out. They don't sue you for walking away, then cry when you won't come back. Real family offers shelter, not shame. Support, not strings. So I built a new one, piece by piece, quiet, steady, honest. And every day I chose peace over performance, dignity over duty, and myself above all. What I learned from all this is simple. Sometimes choosing yourself means disappointing everyone who benefited from your silence. And that's okay, because peace doesn't come from keeping the people who hurt you comfortable. It comes from stepping away even when your hands are still trembling. I didn't burn bridges. They handed me the match and dared me to light it, so I walked. And on the other side, I found something I never expected. A life that fit, a home that didn't echo with shame, and a version of myself I actually liked waking up to. So if you're listening to this, if you're the one always holding everything together, if you're the one everyone leans on until your back breaks, please hear me. You are not selfish for saying enough. You are not heartless for choosing your own well-being. You are not alone. What did you think of this story? If you were in Riley's shoes, how would you have handled it? Let me know where you're listening from in the comments. And if you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, type, "I chose me" below. Don't forget to subscribe to EN True Tales for more stories of quiet power, truth, and becoming your own home. Stay strong, stay true, and remember, you are not the villain in someone else's version of your survival.